His stepsis was formerly his ex.
Okay.
Yeah, you heard that right.
Oh yeah, we are definitely out of here.
Irido Mizuto has moved on from his past relationship in middle school until his father remarries his ex's mother. Meet said ex, Yume. She wasn't all standoffish before when they were in middle school, but it seems she's grown in size and attitude. So, they are step-siblings now, and Yume wants to set down rules to ensure they act like actual siblings instead of ex-lovers. She argues about the time she was born, stating that she wants to be the elder sibling. But Mizuto disagrees, and they decide to pick a compromise. In which case, anyone who acts like an ex-lover will have to be treated as the younger sibling, and they will receive a penalty of sorts. The penalty in this case is whatever these nerds want to do to the other person. At their new high school, they discover they share the same class and sit very close to each other. Yume gets to give the freshman speech because of her excellent grades and attracts a flock of friends from the onset. She even has boys trying to use Mizuto to get to her. But Mizuto just lets the boys' advances roll over his shoulders. Because of this, Yume gets mad at him for not standing up for himself and decides to defend her step-sibling by showing those guys a brother complex show. She rubs her dings on him and then gets embarrassed later on. She gets upset that Mizuto doesn't seem to feel any kind of embarrassment from that moment. So, she decides to go overboard. She sits with him, tempting him, dressed only in her towel. However, her act fails when her towel almost comes off and Mizuto makes sure it stays on. Then, they trip over each other and land in an awkward position. This situation makes them remember their past as lovers, and they both lean in for a kiss. Unfortunately, the show comes to an end when their parents, Mineki and Uni, step in. Yume hides underneath the couch, and she complains that it's situations like that one that made them end their relationship in the first place. A couple of days later at school, Mizuto gets approached by a boy named Kagure Kawanami. Kagure promises that he's not interested in Yume, and that his intentions are not to use Mizuto to get to her. He just wants to be friends. So, Mizuto makes his first real friend in high school. Also, during the fitness test, Yume makes her own first important friend. Meet Akatsuki Minami, the girl sizing up Yume's dings. Yeah, don't ask me why I keep using the word ding. So, Minami asks Yume how she got that big, and Yume explains that her growth spurt happened in a year. Then, they begin the fitness activities, and Yume tries very hard to match Minami, only to faint. Luckily, Mizuto magically appeared out of thin air and caught her. He leaves her in Minami's hands, and the two girls have their first deep conversation in the infirmary. The next day, Yume doesn't show up to school because she has a fever. So, Minami asks to follow Mizuto home to see her bestie. Yeah, that's how fast she got hooked on her. Anyway, when they arrive home, a delirious Yume says something embarrassing to Mizuto. She saw him as her ex-lover at that moment, and Mizuto just had to snap her out of it. Focus, girl! Afterward, Minami cooks lunch with Mizuto, and she tells him she knows he had a girlfriend in the past because of the way he handles girls in Yume. I think I phrased that wrong, but anyway, Minami feeds her friend. Then she asks Mizuto if there's anything more between the two siblings. Of course, Mizuto says they are just step-siblings, and Minami lets off. On going back inside, Yume asks him to hold her hand so she can sleep. Mizuto then recalls that their relationship started off sweet, but ended because of a petty issue. Past that, this next bit gets even more exciting. Yume is what you would call an obsessed girlfriend. Or at least, that's what she was while she dated Mizuto in middle school. She used to keep everything he gave her in a box. Somehow, that obsessed spirit has resurfaced. Because Yume has her stepbrother's underwear in her possession. She tries to return it at night while Mizuto sleeps, but she sees a glimpse of herself in the hallway. Yes, Mizuto also has her underwear in his possession.
We're a long way from Texas.
They both blame it on a laundry mishap and decide to settle it with the penalty on both sides. They are free to ask each other to do something when they feel like it. Later, Yume spots Mizuto with a girl from school and gets jealous. She then finds a girl's loafers at their front door. She thinks Mizuto has brought the girl home to have fun, so she decides to trick him into getting groceries so she can do something about the girl. She calls him and says she forgot to get some groceries she was supposed to get. She asked him to go get them, saying she wasn't at home yet. Then, she hides and waits for him to leave. She then rushes to his room only to find Mizuto still there. It turns out the person who left must have been the girl. So, Mizuto notices that someone else except him was in the house, and remembers an awkward conversation he had earlier. Minami is the girl Yume saw earlier, and she approached Mizuto, asking to get married because she wanted to be close to Yume. Yes, she's obsessed with Yume and wants to be her sister-in-law. I know, it's stupid. It's crazy on so many levels. So, Mizuto calls Kagure, who is a childhood friend of Minami's, and asks for his help. Kagure then explains that Minami can get very clingy and tells Mizuto how to make her stay away. So, Mizuto heads to Yume and decides to use his penalty from earlier to ask her out on a date. Kogure told him that the only way to have Minami give up on Yume was to display Yume's brother complex to Mizuto, hence the date, with those two childhood friends watching from the background. Yume is, however, completely clueless. She's trying so hard not to fall for Mizuto all over again because he looks so attractive. And she can't figure out why he asked her out on a date. She just convinced herself that siblings also go on dates. Of course they don't. Anyway, their aquarium date goes off, and Minami has been invited to watch Kogure. Soon, Yume loses her cool and gets lost in the aquarium. So, she calls Mizuto, expecting him to tease her sarcastically. However, Mizuto just says some nice words that she doesn't want to hear. So, she hangs up. She recalls the time she got lost on their first date ever, as a couple back in middle school. And she loves how sweet Mizuto used to be. He acted nice and understanding toward her clumsiness, and he is doing the same thing now. Somehow, she doesn't like the nice side anymore, and prefers the bickering atmosphere they always have going. Suddenly, Mizuto appears, and he takes the sarcastic gentleman's approach. Therefore, he wins back Yume, and their date just flows from then on. They were actually enjoying themselves. After the date, Minami apologizes to Mizuto for coming off strong and breaking into their house. But she reveals that she is not ready to give up on her Yume obsession. At home, Yume decides to use her own penalty to take pictures of Mizuto because she finds her step-sibling attractive. A week later, Yume drags Mizuto out to go get a gift for her mother, Uni, for Mother's Day. They share an awkward moment on the train and end up getting flowers for Uni, who loves the gift so much she wails. Then, Mizuto goes to pray in front of his deceased mother. She died when he was very young, so Mizuto doesn't really know her that much. Seeing this, Yume joins in silently for a while before proposing a brilliant idea. She wants them to give Minaki and Uni some alone time together since they are both technically newlyweds. Mizuto then suggests they stay in a love hotel and leave their parents at home, but Yume declines the offer. Instead, Mizuto stays with Kogure while Yume stays with Minami. They both live right next to each other. Kogure explains that he and Minami used to be best friends until they started drifting apart. Then, the boys poke fun at each other, embarrassing the girls next door. Afterward, they head out to a restaurant, and the step-siblings find that Kogure and Minami are actually close friends, seeing how much they bicker. Then, Kogure and Minami rebut that Mizuto and Yume do their bickering in a stylish and underhanded way, which they don't believe is healthy. At night, Mizuto and Yume meet at their friend's balcony and throw compliments at each other. Then, they both consider the what-if surrounding their current situation. It seems that their love for each other remains, and their current sibling status makes them sad. Then, exams arrive, and Yume remembers how she fell in love with Mizuto back in middle school. She, at first, rivaled herself with Mizuto because he proved to be better than her academically. But then, she realizes that Mizuto doesn't really care about the grades, and feels stupid for considering him as her rival. However, she soon found out that Mizuto's nonchalant attitude was an act because he too considered her his rival. So, she fell in love with him. It's silly, I know. Let's just not question it. Anyway, the first exam happens, and Yume discovers Mizuto left some of the answers blank to help her stay on top of the class. So, she gets furious because she wants a fair fight and confronts Mizuto about it. Mizuto then gets upset and decides to give her the competition she needs. He comes out on top above her at the end of all the papers, and he shows her that she can now relax in second place because she was struggling to stay on top to keep her friends close. He makes her realize that she doesn't have to go through all that trouble to still have friends. So Yume tries to confess her feelings to him all over again. However, she stops when she spots Mizuto in the library talking to Higashira Isana. Isana and Irido met a while ago, and they have somehow become very close, but still on a friendship level. Yume sees that it makes her very jealous, and she tries to act very nice to Mizuto to try to forget their past relationship. But Mizuto sees through her and makes her confess that she is jealous of his friend Isana. So, Mizuto introduces Minami and Yume to Isana, making them see that he and Isana share a completely platonic relationship. However, Minami soon figures out that Isana does indeed have feelings for Mizuto.